and thank you for joining us today on your show, Lifeline Television. I'm your host, Clarissa Gonzalez. Today, we're going to be covering a different array of topics, but usually we'll talk about Medicare and funeral planning. But today, because the political arena is heating up, I've decided to bring on one of our candidates that is running for Justice of the Peace in Precinct 1. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, ericcc, who is running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 3. Eric, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Clarissa.
You know, Eric, I decided to bring you on board because being a newcomer to politics, I've been there before. 4 years ago, I made the decision to run for a Nueces County judge. And it was a really hard decision for me to make because it was putting myself out in public. You know, it was exposing myself to, even the comments that people were going to make about my life, about my business, about everything that had to do with myself. So in your case, you're in the same position because you're a newcomer. People don't really know who you are. All of a sudden, all your signs are popping up. Who is this Eric J. Cantu? Everybody's wondering, here are all these people making comments for say of who really is Eric J. Cantu. But I really want our viewers to hear it from you. I want them to understand the reasons why you decided to run, the reasons as to why you decided to put yourself out there and become a public servant. Because as I understand, this is something that has been brewing for a while, right?
Correct. I have lived in Corpus Christi all my life, born and raised here. I have a local business that I have 15 employees who work under me. Been in business since I was 17 years old. I had my struggles in life like everyone else has. We have our ups and downs in business, and we have to make business decisions all the time. If they're good or bad, we have to make those decisions. And I have been through a lot since I was 17. My mother and my father worked with the United States Postal Service over 20 years. My mother was a supervisor at a local post office, and my father was a mail carrier. My parents always taught me that hard work pays off. And my mother, worked day and night at the Postal Service while having a disease called lupus for 20 years. My father worked at the post office also day and night, and he also had a couple small businesses on the side. And my father was always a go-getter. He will always, wake up early in the morning and go to work and wouldn't see him till about 9, 10 o'clock at night. And same thing as my mother. And they taught me a lot in life, values of life. When I was 16, my mother was forced to retire early because of her illness. And she was only 48 at the time. My mother was on the liver transplant list for about a year, and I made the hard decision to get homeschooled to be with my mother and help her while our father provides for us. And it was a hard decision in life because I was going to stay away from my friends. I was going to be stuck at home. But I did it because of my family, because of my mother. I know my mother would have done the same thing for myself. And it was a really hard decision, but I did it. For a whole year, I was homeschooled, and the day that we got the phone call at 4 a.m. that she had a liver waiting for her in San Antonio, it was a blessing to our family. So we went to San Antonio that night, and we were by her side all the time till she had surgery. And the surgery went well. The doctors did a great job there. A day before she got released from the hospital, she had a aneurysm in her brain, and she was brain dead, and she was on life support for about 2-3 days, and they determined that she was brain dead. So we had to make the hard decision in life to let her go. She passed away when she was 49 years old. I was 17. I was lost without my mother. I didn't know what to do. And my father, always working, I had to cope by myself of my mother's death. And the good thing about my mother's death, that I see the bright side of it, is that her death had made me the person I am today. At 17, I reached out and for my goals in life. And one of my goals in life when I was young is always to be in public service. I had a great grandfather who was a sheriff for Brooks County for a very long time in the 1950s, 60s. And he died, got shot in the line of duty. And his stories and what people tell me about him make me proud of what he did for his community to protect and serve. I also have an uncle from Claiborne County in Kingsville, Texas, Ramel Lomas, who's been a county commissioner there for 35 years. And he has not lost an election. You know, he's there for the people of Claiborne County. People love him to death because he's not about politics. He's about the people of Claiborne County. Granted, he's a Democrat. He has the same values as a Democrat, but he's for the people, not for the party. He's for the people of Claiborne County. And he really has influenced me of being in public service. And that's why I'm running to be your next judge, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 3. Because I feel that this court can be ran way different and better. Experience counts, but it's not a substitute for good judgment.
And I totally agree with you, because a lot of people are going to say, well, why should we change somebody that's been in office for so long? Well, the bureaucracy of all of this is what we have to look at. Good judgment, when it comes to that, we have to figure out what is good for the community, how we're going to make things better for the community, how we're going to update the systems that are currently being used in that courtroom. And that's what I think that you bring to the table. You and I have talked about the reasons why you made the decision to run. The community needs to understand that even though your life was a little bit difficult growing up, you came out of that and you created lemonade with the lemons that you were handed. With the help of your grandmother, you were able to start this business that you now own. You now employ 15 people. I mean, we're talking about a person, and let me be very, very clear. I'm very honored to be your friend, because we're talking about a person that has come from struggles of life and built something positive. For all we could have known, you could have gone to the wrong way. There's a lot of teenagers that make the wrong decisions, and for you to at 17 years old to start your business, that's something that your family members are very proud of. And when it comes to being a judge, a justice of the peace, a lot of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, in that courtroom are business transactions. So tell us a little bit about your experience in business and how this is going to help you run that courtroom.
I believe in my experience in business, I could run this courtroom. It doesn't take a rocket genius to run this courtroom, but it takes someone with a lot of common sense and fairness to run that courtroom. With politics to the side, it's a people's court. It's like me and you talking. It doesn't take an attorney to go into this courtroom and represent yourself. And I really strongly believe that we need to have a fair judge in that courtroom and someone who's honest and not play politics. Politics needs to be outside the courtroom, not inside the courtroom. I believe our current judge doesn't bring that to the table. I believe that he plays a lot of politics in his courtroom. I believe that he does unfair rulings for family or for friends.
And these are documented cases. These are people that have come forward and said, you know what, we thank you for running because we had this experience in the courtroom. And it's not just one, it's not just two, it's many stories, similar stories with the similar patterns, correct?
When I filed to run for judge for that precinct, Place 3, about a week later, I received phone calls to my office. I want to say about 8 to about 12 phone calls within a week, stating that they're happy that they see someone challenging this judge. They felt in their courtroom, not the judge's courtroom, in their courtroom, that they didn't have a fair trial or the fair ruling. They felt that the judge played politics, or the judge failed to tell the plaintiff or the defendant that, hey, I know this person, let me recuse myself. He doesn't do that. He plays politics in his courtroom. When I filed for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 3, that week, I got about 6 to 8 phone calls to my office telling me thank you for putting your name in the ballot because we need a new judge. This judge is not fair. He doesn't do fair rulings, and they're very excited for my race. And you can't make everybody happy. We have to have a ruling. There's no ifs or buts about it. Someone's gonna leave the courtroom upset. But when you put politics inside the courtroom, it's not a people's court no more.
It's not about I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back. Let's get this. No. And it's really understandable as to why some people might feel that. Wait a minute, this was someone they knew, or this was, like you said, if it's someone it's a family member, you have the option to recuse yourself from making a ruling based on that, and that actually just helps keep the fairness of the whole deal.
You don't have an option. You need to recuse yourself. That's the right thing to do. That's a fair ruling. If you know somebody and they're in front of you, you need to tell them, you know what? I know you. I can't hear this case. I want to be fair to both parties. I want to give this case to another JP. It's very simple.
Well, let's set the record straight. A lot has been said as to why Eric J. Cantu is running for Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1, Place 3. There was a ruling made against you. You got really upset. You stormed out of the courtroom and you decided that this is what you wanted to do.
That's funny, that he said that because he didn't rule against me. He dismissed the case. It was great for me. I don't know where he got that from. But that is a funny statement he made, and it's just hilarious.
How many times have you been before him in the courtroom?
One time. That only time that he dismissed the case. And it was a toll hearing for our business, and they didn't have no evidence, and he just dismissed the case. It was simple, and I wasn't upset with him. This is not about me going against him. It's not at all. It's about I want to help the people of Nueces County. It's not about politics. It's not about I'm going after him because he did this or he's doing this or he's teaming up with this other politician. It's not about politics. It's about myself, that I want to help the people of Nueces County. I have it in my heart and I want to help them.
And what about this statement? Let's go back to the whole, Eric runs a business. He's not going to be a full-time judge. I don't work. I'm a full-time judge. They even went as far as saying, is it even legal for a Justice of the Peace to own a business and run a courtroom? What are your sentiments on that?
It's my understanding there's a couple JP judges out there who run businesses every day. There's Judge Bobby Gonzalez. There's Judge Emilio Pena, who runs a grocery store. I will be in this courtroom 9 to 5. No ifs or buts about it. I have personnel who will handle my business on my daily operations. I don't have to be there to run my business. I have dedicated employees who I take care of and who are dedicated to me and to our company. Because it's not just my company, it's their company.
Well, and so, the courtroom is a 9 to 5, or the 8 to 5. But, being a Justice of the Peace, you get a call in the middle of the night that you need to sign a warrant, that you need to be there to, in some cases, I know that not in Nueces County, but some cases you have to go and declare somebody that has passed, the timing and all of that. So it is a 24-hour job, and the availability. Is Eric J. Cantu going to be able to do that?
Correct. I will be able to provide that services to anybody. If a police officer comes and says, hey, Judge, I want you to sign a warrant at 3 in the morning, I'm going to get up and sign the warrant. I'm gonna help the law enforcement as possible, as I'm going to help the law enforcement as much as I can within the law, okay? And I am available 3 o'clock in the morning. I have a company is open 24 hours a day. So I'm used of working 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
So it's the statement that we can make is Eric J. Cantu will be 24/7 judge, not just a part-time judge. Just because you own a business does not disqualify you. I mean, that's the American dream, to be able to be self-employed, to be able to own your business, to be able to own your properties, to be able to own this. I mean, just because you're living part of what everybody in America wants doesn't necessarily disqualify you from being able to serve the public.
I will be available for everybody.
That's great to hear, because that's what the voters need to understand, that just because somebody owns a business, just because somebody's, doing something with their life, doesn't necessarily take away their right to be able to serve as a public servant.
Correct.
Well, you heard it here. The reasons as to why Eric J. Cantu and who Eric J. Cantu is, and why he's running for office, and the reasons why he believes you should vote for him on March 4th. We'll be right back after these messages. We have more coming up.
I'm voting for Eric Cantu as our next Justice of the Peace.
Eric Cantu cares about people like you and me. And Eric Cantu will treat everyone who comes into his courtroom with dignity and respect.
Eric Cantu listens to both sides and carefully reviews the law.
Eric Cantu understands the issues that face our community.
On March 4th, elect a Democrat that puts people ahead of politics. Elect Eric Cantu for Justice of the Peace for Precinct 1, Place 3. And thank you very much for staying with us. I'm your host, Clarissa Gonzalez, and today on our show we have our guest, Eric J. Cantu, who is running to be your next judge, Justice of the Peace of Precinct 1, Place 3. Eric, thank you very much for coming and sharing your life experiences with our viewers. We went over, your early stages of life and how you started your business and the reasons behind you running for this office. And I want to go a little bit into a little bit of controversy that has been brewing within the last couple of weeks. And of course, it's politics, so you expected that. We all expect to be hit with something.
Yes.
When I was running for office, the same thing happened to me. But let's be very clear. The whole issue behind that we've been seeing on the news channels and we've been hearing about the ticket. Was Eric Cantu upset because he's above the law because he got a ticket for being a couple days late on your registration? And of course, that's what's being said.
That famous ticket. Well, this is how the story begins. I have a 24/7 towing company in Corpus Christi. We have a fleet of about 9 trucks. And 2 of our trucks went out to 361 in Port Aransas. We had a call that a vehicle was submerged in the water. So the drivers parked their trucks on 361 to go and check out the vehicle before they get their trucks in there and see how bad the vehicle was submerged. When they came back to the trucks, they noticed a deputy constable from Precinct 4 behind their trucks. So they went towards their trucks where the deputy constable takes off, makes a U-turn, and waits for one of our drivers to get in the truck. So when our driver got in the truck and starts taking off, this constable made a traffic stop. The traffic stop was for an expired registration. I understand that. We overlooked the registration, and it was only a couple days past due. He pulled them over, and my driver got off the truck and asked him, what was the problem, officer? And he said, you have an expired registration. So my driver looked at the expired registration, and he noticed it was expired. And it was only expired for a couple days. It wasn't expired for 2, 3, 4, 5 months. It was expired for a couple days. So my driver said, okay, we understand, My other driver at the other truck stopped to see what was going on, and he was there. And the deputy, which happens to be the judge's son.
It's Randy Valderas.
Correct. And Deputy Randy Valderas, yes. And he went off and saying, I can take you to jail for an expired registration. And my driver was like, what do you mean take me to jail for an expired registration? And then the deputy said, I'm just going to be nice today and not take you to jail. But you need to tell your boss to get your together. And, then he went off saying, that I could impound this truck, which granted, okay, you know what? The law states, you can't arrest somebody for an expired registration. The law states you can impound a vehicle. But do these officers really arrest people for an expired registration? No, not at all. This man was harassing my drivers. All he had to do was to issue the citation, and go on with the way. But he refused. And he did this for political reasons.
And the way that I understand it is, after the fact, a couple of, like 4 hours after the fact, an email blast went out to CCPD about your company. Now, that email blast usually is used for stolen vehicles, for when there's Amber Alerts, things of that nature. But city resources were used by Deputy Balderas to send out an email blast warning all CCPD officers that your one truck was a couple of days past due on their inspection or the registration sticker.
Correct. You know, that's just funny. You know, I mean, he's doing it for political reasons. You know, no officer will do an email blast from the expired registration. It's not going to happen. You know, I talked to a commander. I have talked to a captain, and from the Corpus Christi Police Department, and they know this is political motivated because they've never seen it before. No officer is going to do an email blast and say, hey, by the way, Lone Star Record Service truck is expired with the expired registration. I mean, it doesn't happen. It's not going to happen.
Now let's go back to the second stop. Now, there was a second incident involving your company and Deputy Valderas. I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, you know, he's just complaining. No, this had never happened before. You had never been stopped by Deputy Balderas before. All of a sudden, you're running against his father, and he's on the second time, stops your driver. But what really upsets me is not the fact that he stopped your driver, but what he made your driver do. Now, as a citizen, as someone, if that would have been my brother that happened to, or my father or my cousin or somebody that's trying to make a living, because that's all what your guys are doing. Your employees are out there trying to make a living. And then to be turned around and be harassed and asked to do what he asked your driver to do upsets me. Elaborate on that.
We had a call in Port Aransas that my driver was coming back to Corpus Christi with, and he got pulled over by the same deputy, the judge's son. And he pulls him over for a dirty license plate. He couldn't see the tag, so that's the reason why he did the traffic stop. You know, at that point, I was upset. Because not only he's harassing my company, he's harassing my employees who go to work every morning to work for their families. And then to be in this political fight, it's outrageous.
What did Deputy Balderas make your driver do?
He made my driver clean the license plate with his fingers, or he was going to give him a citation.
At the end of the day, Eric J. Cantu is not upset because citation was issued. You're not upset because, you know, I mean, if you have a dirty license plate, of course, you know, it needs to be visible. I understand that. With the weather that we've been having, there's been a lot of rain, a lot of mud, a lot of everything. I understand the reasons why he could have stopped your vehicle, but the fact that he had your driver clean that license plate with his own fingers before letting him go, that's where you draw the line between being a peace officer and being politically motivated.
It's sad they had to come to this level. I mean,
okay, well, let's go one step further, because the next item that we're going to discuss is a very serious issue that I believe everybody has a right to know. When you're a judge, when you're a public servant, when you are running for any office, myself included when I ran for Nueces County Judge, you receive donations, you receive contributions to your campaign, people that want to help. But you always have to look where that money's coming from. It's like buying diamonds, you know, when you buy diamonds, make sure that, you know, they're not blood diamonds because of the whole reasons behind, you know, the morality of things. When you receive a donation from a sex offender or a murderer or a rapist or a felon, and you overlook that person that is donated to your campaign, what does that say about you as a person?
he has very bad judgment. He is a presiding judge. He's a public servant for our community. He works every day with young children. And he's going to receive money from a registered sex offender who he molested a 10-year-old little girl. It's not right.
What we understand is that on his Texas Ethics Commission report, Judge Robert Valderas reported receiving donations from
Rudy Rubio, who is a registered sex offender since 2005.
So Mr. Rubio, who we all heard all over the news, right now there is a case pending against him because of kidnapping and
rape.
Yes. This gentleman donated money to your opponent's campaign. And even after realizing that this gentleman had donated money to his campaign, that this gentleman was a registered sex offender. I mean, we're talking about somebody that is already a convicted sex offender. And your opponent did nothing to the fact, did not return the money, kept the money. He did not say, well, you know what? This money I'm going to go ahead and turn around and donate it to a charity that helps victims of sexual abuse. Nothing in that nature. Elaborate a little bit on that.
You know, Clarissa, it's very, very sad of the poor decisions he makes. You know, receiving money from a sex offender or a drug dealer, you don't do that. You're a judge. You know, you're supposed to uphold the law. You're supposed to protect the people. You know, and you're over here receiving money from a registered sex offender? What kind of man is this guy? You know, I mean, it's sickening because he deals with kids all the time in his courtroom and he's going to receive money from a registered sex offender? That now he has a pending case against him for rape and kidnapping another girl 4 months ago? I mean, what does this judge think he's doing? I mean, this is sickening.
So let's say that were to happen to any person that's running for office or any elected official. You know, you find out, okay, this person has just committed another crime, has just been arrested for another crime. At what point do you make the decision whether to keep this money or not? I mean, shouldn't that be like an immediate decision?
He put the campaign before his people, you know, and him being a judge should have more ethics than receiving money from a registered sex offender. You know, to me, that's a low blow to the victims. You know, to this 10-year-old girl in 2005 that he molested. You know, a judge. You know, I talked about this subject with other judges, and they disagree with him. Why he did that? No judge in the right mind would even put that name on his ethics commission report.
By the time that he put his name on his ethics commission report, he was already a sex offender. Let's make that point clear. He was already a registered sex offender.
Correct. He was a registered sex offender since 2005. He received this money from this scumbag. You know, and I'm sure he saw the news 4 months ago that, you know, this guy just raped and kidnapped another girl. And what did he do? Nothing. He kept this money for his own personal gain, for his campaign, and put the people behind him.
You know, that's something that every person that is heading to the polls should have into consideration. Because if it was your daughter that this happened to, would you want to vote for the man that kept the contribution made to him and his campaign from the man that hurt your child? As a mother, that upsets me. As a mother, that offends me. You head to that poll, should understand that it is not just about politics, that it is not just about running or having the funds to run a campaign. This is about integrity. This is about protecting the people of Nueces County. This is about being fair. A lot of the issues that we've discussed today that this current judge lacks. I know something was said, if you can't find 5 things that this judge did wrong, keep him in office. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we just gave you 7. Eric, thank you very much for joining us. I hope that the voters of Nueces County understand the importance of voting for you when they head to the polls, because it's not just about Eric J. Cantu. It's about the entire community, and you've made that quite clear today.
I will be here for the people day and night. If you need me, I'm a phone call away. My number is 696-2500. If you'd like to help with the campaign, give us a call. You want to have a talk with me, or you want to discuss some issues, my phone's always on and I will answer it. Early voting starts February the 18th and election day is March the 4th. I encourage everybody to go out and vote. If it's early voting or March the 4th, election day, go out and vote and make your vote count. It's very important to go out and vote.
And once again, Eric, thank you very much for being with us. And for the viewers of Nueces County and the surrounding areas, it's very important when you go out and vote to cast the ballot for the person that you think is going to care most for your community. I also believe that your vote is your voice, and therefore, if you don't vote, you cannot be heard. So this February 18th starts early voting. Election day is on March the 4th. Again, thank you very much for staying with us on Lifeline Television. We'll see you soon with more information, more topics about what's important to your community. Thank you.